Hello everyone. I just wanted to do a quick trade recap on the pound Aussie. I took a nice trade yesterday, sitting somewhere around you know between 190 and 210 pips. I've seen it kind of wiggling. So nice trade. First profit targets were hit this morning, so I'm looking for a little bit more of a move up. And let's go into the analysis behind it. Just minimize this. Okay, so I'm on the weekly chart now. I'm essentially a swing trader these days, I guess, just because I have a couple other projects I'm working on. I'm trying to put together a trading boot camp, a 8-week trading boot camp that's going to be pretty intensive for people. I already have a few people committed to doing that with me. I'm really excited about that, but I'm also a dad, so I stay-at-home dad, so I watch my girls during the day, so I don't have a whole lot of chart time these days. So I need to make my trades count when they set up, and so for me that's swing trading. I'm looking to capitalize on some higher time frame chart structure and look for those bigger moves, a couple 100 pip moves, if I can manage it, if it works out. So on the weekly chart, this was the only thing that I had marked up on this this chart. You can see it's held on both as resistance and support. Had a large extensive move off of it previously, and once it got back around it, it held on both sides. So that's the markup on the weekly chart. You can see the deceleration as price was coming down. We were getting these big bearish candles, but no follow through, and then we finally kind of bottomed out here, and then the bears couldn't even retest the lows before we kind of pushed up, and that kind of coincided with breaking a kind of a trend line here. So once we broke that trend line and we're kind of retesting it, we had a decent bullish move off of it, which kind of broke out of a little range that you can see here. Just a little consolidation period. That's kind of ugly. See if I can snap. Anyways, had a little consolidation range, broke out of that, and have since kind of pushed up nicely. So I was looking for an entry, and just doing some analysis. Let me tighten this up a little bit. So we had this extra little trend line that was containing price. You can see once that was broken, it was retested pretty perfectly and kind of chopped around it, but held overall. And then with the bottom of that little range, I used that as kind of an initiation point. You can see this pierced below it just a little bit, but didn't really get any follow through before the bulls really stepped in and drove it higher. And then we came back, so you can see all that intersection right there. And then you can see where price had used this general area as a pretty impulsive move in the past. So all that was kind of coming together right in and around there. Fib wise, looking for some fib validation. You can see the 50 kind of held here, front ran that 61.8, and then pushed up and hit our profit targets. So I kind of like that fib validation there. So just extending that up a ways, you can see again that 50 held initially, pushed down, front ran the 61.8 again, and then pushed back up. And then the 50 for this move here was kind of lining up all in and around that that intersection point. Let me delete that big zone there. Keep in mind that zone. So I was pretty confident about this general area. Coming off our most recent little fib, we had that 78.6 that sat right on top of that larger 50% move. So that has since pushed up nicely, and that was my trade. My entry was just essentially as price was kind of dipping down into this area. I think I got filled. So pound Aussie has kind of a wider spread, and I have maybe taken 5 or 10 trades on pound Aussie in my whole little trading career thing. My stop was right about 50 pips. So I think that's about 50 pips there. So like I said, I gave it a little bit of wiggle room, but you know, it wasn't an extreme amount because, you know, again, I'm a confluence trader. I don't wait for any type of confirmation. I find where all my confluence is and I enter. And that was essentially right there. So I do not need to give it such a large stop. I mean, yeah, it's more conservative, or to, you know, put your stop there, but that's like a, you know, 200 pip stop. You know, I have my confluence where I have it. I wouldn't enter the trade if I didn't think it was going to hold. You know, so I don't need to give it a lot of wiggle room. I just need to give it a little cushion, you know, to see if it'll play out. It's, you know, I'm not gonna lie, it's more aggressive to just enter blindly. I mean, I'm not entering blindly. You know, I have a reason for entry, and I've gone over my reason for entry, but people still say, you know, how do you know it's gonna hold? Well, I don't know it's gonna hold. That's why I have a stop loss, and you know, I essentially go into every trade expecting it not to hold. You know, you have to be comfortable with losing your investment, right? It's trading. It's risky. There's a certain level of risk that you have to develop an appetite for. So, you know, don't need those huge stops. I have all the confluence I need right in and around here to warrant an entry. To me, it's a low risk entry because all of that confluence is there and lining up. It's just training your eye and your mind to accept that risk, and training your eye to identify these points on the chart that all come together, that provide the best opportunities. You know, this was, I think, maybe my second trade this week. I've only taken 2 trades. I took one more last night on the Aussie dollar, or Aussie New Zealand, but that one only amounted to about 20 pips. That was a very aggressive entry, and I only gave that about 20 pips of risk, and the Aussie news was about to come out, so I went ahead and took just took a 1-to-1 trade on that. That was kind of a day trade for me. That's the only other trade I had this week. So that's this is the trade, guys. Target wise, first targets have been hit. That was essentially where price is now. You can see why we're reacting the way we are. You can see this was kind of our last little area of resistance before our push down. So that's kind of a little supply zone. We have broken, a pretty, if you just average all this mess here together, this whole general area has acted as resistance. So my stop currently, after first targets were hit, is about 76.30. If this isn't going to hold, I wouldn't necessarily want to stay in it for that much longer. I've already gotten essentially the move that I was anticipating off of it, so I'm not going to just give it all back. Overall target wise, I would like to see price come back up and retest this area here. This is a strong area. There's a nice profit target in there, and that lines up with our overall kind of move down, that 50% retracement. Whether or not it's just going to blow up there today or tomorrow, who knows? It may. Don't count on it. It's got to ebb and flow just like this, so it wouldn't surprise me to dip back down. May take me out. But like I said, I've already gotten the cheese that I want. So this is the trade. It's currently sitting about 190 pips. You can see kind of my stop, my entry. Let's see. Yeah, you can see that. I mean, they don't happen like this all the time. I'm not bragging. This was just a confluent entry. I don't know if it'll even scroll all the way back, but you can see my entry there. They don't happen like this all the time. Expect drawdown. You have to, especially with the way I trade, confluence wise. Yeah, sometimes it holds this perfect, but oftentimes it doesn't. And you have to expect drawdown within, your little risk, your risk amount. So you can see my overall kind of profit target for the last part is there. And we'll just have to see. My stop is below today's daily candle, so it would have to come all the way back and breach the low of today's candle, which if that's the case, I mean, this is kind of, in a downtrend technically for recent price action. Just this move here is technically like a downtrend, so it may come back. I mean, who knows? I don't know. But that's a pretty decent area to take the rest of my position off. So if we can push up, great. If not, great too. It was a profitable trade either way. So I hope you guys like this. If you need my help with anything, let me know. I'm going to be pretty busy over the next month or so finishing up some boot camp stuff, but message me if you have any questions. Take care, guys. Let me figure out